Hello and welcome back to the Direct Approach podcast. I'm Ian. Today we're going to be discussing tendering and winning more work. If you're sick of losing tenders and drowning in paperwork, this episode is going to be for you. With me again as usual is my colleague Ben. So say hello, Ben.
All right, thanks for having us back on, as ever.
Perfect. Well, Ben has actually got a new role which we'll introduce now that's going to help with this podcast. So Ben is now our accreditations guru. So he's the GOAT of accreditations. So this will all tie in nicely to the tenders. So you just want to start by telling us a little bit about what you're doing now, Ben?
Well, it came up like on the virtual business brief saying senior accreditation special. Like senior, like cheers for that, man. I'm like 27. But yeah, so as of Jan, I've been brought as the senior, apparently, accreditations specialist. So you're working alongside the accreditation, sort of sat between the sales and the accreditations team to look after all of our clients with their accreditations, making sure they've got the one that suits their needs, suits their plans. So they've not just got it for the sake of having it. It's sat on a shelf gathering dust. It's actually working for them, helping them get the work that they want to get and deserve to get.
Yeah, perfect. So like I say, that'll tie in nicely with, like I said, the main topic of today is winning more work via tenders. So whether you're looking to work with councils, local authorities, building firms, house building firms, anything like that, I'd say that's the purpose of today. So we know from our experience, we deal with hundreds of tenders weekly here, and clients who are looking to get bigger work and ultimately make more money. So myself personally, I've been here 13 years, and I think over that time, my clients have won millions in terms of contract value from tenders. So that's where we're at today with it. And like I say, Ben's new role will tie in nicely to that as we get to it. So what we want to do was just discuss really sort of the reality of tendering, sort of a bit of myth busting and what you actually need to do to be able to get these jobs. So there's a lot of people out there who think you need to do X, Y, and Z who probably won't be winning that work. So this is how we help you with that. So firstly, what I was going to mention is, if I just pass back over to Ben. So how do you find the SSIP and accreditation fits in around tendering?
Well, it's sort of the first step. Like if you're going into tender without at least an SSIP, it's essentially like trying to board a flight without a passport. You're just not even going to get looked at. Quite literally, not going to get looked at. You're not on the portal, and no matter how good you are, you might be absolutely fantastic in your trade. You may even have all your health and safety and all your training in place, be completely compliant, have a great reputation and so on. But if without an SSIP, safety schemes in procurement, you're not visible to your councils, your commercial clients, anything sort of larger like that, any of your sort of tier one or even below contracts like that. So all that does essentially is your SSIP is just proves to people, we live in a land of jobs with now. They're all going to be people just sort of sat there looking at tenders on a screen. Yeah, because traditionally it's been a lot of word of mouth, but when you're working with these, or trying to get work with these bigger companies that have got entire departments set up about procurement and purchasing and bringing people in, they're just going to be flicking through, almost like job interviews. If someone's flicking through all the applications and all the tenders, if look, no SSIP, not worth it, see you later, no matter how good you are, really. So it's essentially separating you. Look, there's a lot of jokers out there, a lot of chances and that. It's proven to outside eyes looking in that you aren't those. It's separating you from the Tom, Dick and Harrys of the world, and making sure that the work that you're doing, both on site and with your compliance, is getting the recognition it deserves. Very much the first step, the very basic step, getting more and more people coming on now, which is why people are looking to try and get beyond an SSIP. But we'll mention that in a minute. But yeah, like I said, with an SSIP, it's like trying to get on a plane without a passport. You've just not got a chance, essentially.
Yes, it's basically standing out from the crowd, isn't it? Like anything else that, like say for these jobs, if you're interested in them, plenty of other people are going to be interested in them as well. So you're not going to be up against yourself when it's tendering. So like say, if you can stand out from the crowd, obviously cost and things will come into it. But if your paperwork's correct, so as we always say here, is that the reputation of your company will get you the conversation, but the paperwork will get you the job. So that's sort of the main thing that people don't really realise, I suppose. Just sort of going back a little bit on what you were just saying then, so you touched on at the start there about having your health and safety stuff in place as well as the SSIP. So what type of stuff do people need for tenders? Why is that important? And what should they be doing to get things going and get the job they're after?
Well, I think obviously I think for most part, sort of no two tenders are the same. I mean, generally they're assessing, I guess, touching back on what we said, that you're safe, that you're competent, and that obviously you're compliant and reliable as well. So the things you would need for that as well is having all of your health and safety covered. I mean, this is the basic things to have the SSIP in place. Yeah. So your health and safety policy, your risk assessments, method statements, COSH where necessary, health and safety training, which a lot of people neglect, think, oh, I'm all right. But a lot of people, they'll have a health and safety policy that says we have training. They'll have risk assessments that go, yeah, we have given our lads training with working at height and so on. They don't actually have any of the training. Yeah. Or what's even more common is they have stuff in place, but it's generic or it's out of date. And they just go, well, I've got this and we did this. Well, it was done over 12 months ago, so it's no longer of any use. Call it what it is, useless. Yeah. So this is where we HS Direct come in, like as you'll do with sort of the new clients coming in, setting them up with basically a tender pack with all of that in place. That's just going to be you should have it in place really, but like I said, without any of that in place, you're just not going to get. I'm about to say you're not going to get a second look in your belt. You're not even going to get a first look in, and it's what's going to be needed for the SSIP and for the rest of the tender as well. Just showing that you've done all your due diligence. Because essentially the clients, all it is just them trying to cover their back. Yeah. Because if they're bringing you on, something happens, they're going to get asked by HSE and their insurance, like you are. Well, why did you let them come on site? Why did you let ABC contractors come on? Did you vet them for anything? So that's all your clients, your councils, commercial builders and so on are doing, is covering their own back. Yeah. And they're going to just have to do all that vetting on you. And this is why you need all of this in place to stand a chance of winning any of this kind of work. Yeah,
it is. And there's a couple of things as well. There's a lot of sort of myths out there that aren't true about tendering and what you should do and when you should do it. So a couple of bits that we come across quite a lot is people who assume they only need to do the health and safety and their SSIP once they've tendered, if they've got the job. Whereas 9 times out of 10, it's a prerequisite. It's mandatory that you have your health and safety advice in place, you have the SSIP in place, your paperwork in place, and all the rest of it. And like I say, people seem to think that they don't need to do that till they've got the work. But what people need to, I suppose, realise is you need to have that to get the work. So sometimes that's a bit of a speculate to accumulate way of doing it. But if you're paying out a small amount to get through the tender, getting the health and safety and SSIP for jobs that will then make you a hell of a lot more money than you've just spent, it's obviously very much worth doing. The other thing we come across as well is, when we send paperwork, no one reads it. Maybe not. But if something does go wrong, or if you're tendering with a large company who will look at it, you're screwed. You're in trouble then at that point. So it's just making sure that you are doing the right things to get through it. So the other thing I'll quickly pass back to you, Ben. So when it comes to doing these tenders, and especially when you're doing them yourself, is the time-consuming element of it. So a lot of people will say, I'll just do it myself, but it'll take a long time. It's one of those of, if you were going on holiday to Spain, would you rather drive or fly? Well, you can technically do either, but I know which one I'd prefer to do, because driving's going to take me 3 days, a flight will take me 2 hours. So how do we sort of help with making that quicker and an easier process for our clients?
Yeah, because it can be, especially when there can be a long process. Like I had an email from a client this morning, spoke to him a few weeks back about getting his CHAS advanced, that he needs to keep his contracts in place. And he said, I'm going to have a look at doing it myself, kind of thing. I said, yeah, fine, As you said, as you analogy there, you can look to do it yourself. He's come back to say, I've been that busy, flat out, just doing his work, running his business, working on site. Obviously got a life outside of work as well, believe it or not. And just went, it's just going to be far easier for our accreditations team, who I work alongside with very closely, to do the application for him. So how that works is that we would take, first of all, as we just mentioned, you have to be a client of HS Direct, so we've got all your health and safety and training, all the bare essentials in place in the first place. And then we take a handful of other details, such as insurances, proof of two-way communication between you and a client. There's like a form about a previous job you've done. There's about 5 things in total on top of the health and safety stuff that's needed. And the rest of it is done by our accreditations team, which is the policies that need drawing up. They're about several pages each, that need drawing up afresh every year. All the to-in and fro-in with the likes of Safe Contractor, Chas Construction Line, SMAS, all the to-in and fro-in done with that, actually filling out the application. So it's just whirring away in the background whilst you're busy working on site, running your business, with your family, with your kids. Our accreditations team is getting your accreditation sorted in the background for you. So this is where they come in, whether it's, like I said, Construction Line, SMAS, Safe Contractor or Chas. We sort of handful of details from yourself. The rest of it, the remaining 90% of the work, done by them. We keep in contact with you. This is why I've been brought in as well, to provide a bit more cohesion between the different teams and departments, to keep that touch base with the clients, because sometimes as well they go, actually, I've got this accreditation, but I'm looking to work with these people, and we'll go, we'd probably say you want to look at this one instead. Make it, rather than just sort of giving you anything, have that then if that's what you want to buy, actually working with you rather than against you, to make sure that your accreditation, that your accreditation's working in your best interests to meet your goals, and that, whether it's to maintain the work you've got on, which we've found there was someone where their CHAS expired and the work actually got halted. Like, actually got told, you are not allowed back on site until you get your CHAS back up to date. And so when people say, I've not been asked for it, they will have seen it already if you've got it. And if you've not got one and you've not been asked for it, it's probably because you've not got that far down the conversation with them in the first place. Yeah. Exactly like you said. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to get asked for my A-levels to get into uni if I've not even got a GCSE. You know what I mean? It's like you've got to, if you want to get to the FA Cup final, you've got to like win round 3 and 4. You know what I mean? Like, say I've never been asked to, take on Man City. Well, that's because you're in League One. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is about getting you up those leagues.
Or because you're a Sheffield United fan like me. Yeah. That's why you'll never get to a final. That's a different story.
We get a semi, but as ever. But yeah, and I think that's where the accreds, just going back to the accreds team, it just takes, as that guy said today, look, I need it. I thought about doing it myself. It's just going to be quicker and easier. I sort of say to people, my analogy is almost like chef doing you the food. You might have all the ingredients and that, but should we just cook it for you, do all the washing up? Sitting off, you're paying for that service just to take it off your plate.
Yeah, of course. The other thing with tendering as well is that outside of the bits we help with and the health and safety and the rest of it, this is your first impression to whoever it is you're tendering to work for as well. So they'll be building a mental picture of how you run your business. So if you've got all the right paperwork done by the right people, you've got your SSIP, it's also important that they'll all have a box now you have to tick for somebody to provide you with competent health and safety advice. Again, that's us. But like I say, it's all just building that impression along with the other questions in there. They ask about your finances and references and all the rest of it. It does build up that picture then, like I say, mentally of you versus the next person who's also trying to get the same job.
Yeah.
And it's all about being compliant and looking reliable, professional, and all the rest of it. So the other end of the scale when it comes to the accreditation side of things, so there's a lot of them that we find now require you to have an ISO accreditation.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know too much about them, or they're kind of scared of them because they're the big bad sort of internationally recognised accreditation. We're not big enough. Why would we need it? So just touch on that a little bit. So when it comes to the ISO, what's the benefit of having an ISO in place? And tell us a bit about what you know.
These are like the Champions League, really, the highest level. They sit separate to accreditations, essentially. Accreditations are almost, for the most part, a bit of a snapshot at time kind of thing. Like, if you've got everything in place, that's you for the year, really. And then 12 months later, you've got to renew all that. Yeah. Whereas ISO's a bit more, it might sound a bit daunting, but a bit more hands-on, whether it's on the quality, the health and safety, the environmental side, whichever one you go for, or all of them, it's more about actually proving you have management processes in place, like that you are acting on feedback from clients, acting on feedback from customers. If an issue pops up, how do you deal and manage that? It leans into a bit more your project management side, like showing that you as a company have the essentially good coherent management processes in place to react to anything that happens and that. So I was speaking to a guy the other day who I was fishing for an ISO referral, I won't lie, but he'd already got all 3. And I said, what benefit, like, in the few years you've had them, how have they helped you? And he was working on contracts that were like 400k up to 800k. That's just for one job. And he was like, said, well, first what keeps me in them, because his tenders, they were points based. He's like, said, I need these to get the points I need in order to get me to win me these jobs, to keep the ones I've got in place and to win new ones. Yeah. I'm getting these points with them. And he said, to be fair as well, he said they're a good thing to have in place because it's actually improved how we function and operate as a business, because it's made them bring in these management processes dealing with, that means you've got a written policy and strategy for any issues, any risks, any problems, any feedback from clients. He said it's actually helped us operate better and more efficiently as a business. It's almost been a bit like I don't know, I guess like having a bit of a personal trainer. Yeah, you sort of get stronger and you look better, but it's actually sort of made the rest of your body work, better as well. And they've helped you. Like I said, it's not just, I can now lift 100 kilograms. Yeah. The rest of everything else in there is now operating better because of all the exercise you did. Yeah. And that's ISOs really. And they're popping up more and more. A lot of people say, we're not big enough for them. We've got one-man bands on ISOs. Yeah. And there's a great team at Citation that are really knowledgeable, and they'll just do like a no obligation 5-minute chat going, look, are they for you? They're not for everyone. You know, I said a lot of people are going to be fine with what they have in their accreditations, but for some people they go, I either been told that I need one, or I want to really stand out from the crowd and take my business to the next level, take it up a gear. This is what I'm going to need really to get my business to where I want it and it deserves to be.
One of the other questions we get quite a lot when it comes to tenders as well is that, well, it's only for one job. I only need to do this tender for one job and it's going to be worth 5-10 grand to me. I don't want to shell out money at the start if that's all I'm going to get. If you're asking that question and you're going to be working for that company, it's very unlikely it's just going to be that job. So more often than not, we'll speak to people who say that and say, well, if you do this job and do it well, have they told you you're likely to get more work? Well, yeah, they have. So this 10 grand job could lead to a 100, 150, 200 grand over the year or whatever it might be. Yeah. So it's just a very small step at the start to make a huge jump with the company and take you on to the next level. Ultimately, everybody's doing whatever job they're doing to earn more money, go on holidays, buy new cars, buy a new house.
Look after family.
Put your eldest child through university like I am, that's a different story. But whatever it might be, that's ultimately why we're doing it. Yeah. And the other thing with the tenders as well is that we get a lot of, well, they're asking me all these questions, they're not relevant to me. Some of them may seem that way, and some of them may be. However, with these tenders, you've got to remember they'll be sending this tender to you with you and your 3 subbies, but also sending it to other companies who've got 300 members of staff, and they will ask the same questions. Yeah. And this is your opportunity to sell yourself. So it's a little bit, if you were buying a car, if you just looked at a picture of a car on Auto Trader but read nothing about it, would you buy it? Probably not. If you then read the blurb about how many miles it's done, how old the car is, pictures of the interior, take it for a test drive, all the rest of it, you then know that car is for you or it isn't for you. Yeah. And this is your opportunity to do that and sell that to the people you're looking to work for. So it's all about coming across as professionally as you can, essentially, and that you are, I know everyone says it's a tick box exercise. Yeah, it is. But if you don't tick those boxes, then you will not get the work. So it's as important as a tick box exercise can get, really, when it comes to expanding your business, making more money, and all the rest of it, really. So, like I say, it's certainly worth doing. For the only pain point of the whole process is the start. The first tender you've done, the first time you've gone and got your SSIP, all that sort of stuff is where you have to maybe pay out a few quid, yes. You have to go through maybe a bit of time doing whatever you need to do. Pass it over to us and we'll do the rest from there. And then from there on, with that company, if you're on their approved contractor list, you'll probably never need to do anything like that again. It'll be done. And you can then rake in the money you make from it without having to then do anything other than doing your job.
I think it's about making it as easy as possible for those clients, whether it's local councils, national house builders, any sort of general commercial clients in any sort of retail sector, whatever, about us making it as easy as possible for them to say yes to you. because it's just they need people to come on. They've got thousands of options they can go with. How do you make it as easy as possible for them to say yes to you? Yeah. Just because they can go, oh, they've got this, they've got their SSIP, they've got all the health and safety, they've got this accreditation, they've got an ISO. Wow, yeah, that they're not gonna give us a headache at all.
No.
Because they're safe, they're competent, they're reliable, they're compliant.
Yeah.
So it just means, fantastic. Please, yeah, I can see you're the real deal. Please come and work with this kind of thing. And yeah, it's just sort of how easy do you want to make that? And also as well, if you've got some of these as well, it makes the tender process easy, because if you go, have you got an SSIP? Please provide evidence. Skip to question 20.
Yeah.
So all of those questions that are just covered by an SSIP. So saves you the paperwork as well all the time.
It does. And if you're tendering with multiple companies, councils, local authorities, NHS, whatever, if you've got the SSIP, that'll then apply to each of the tenders for the different people you're working for or trying to work for as well. So it's just important to have that in place, just to give you, well, peace of mind, but also just to make life a little bit easier when it comes to that side of things as well. And the other thing I always try and say to people as well, when you're looking at filling out this tender, or if it's a pre-qualification questionnaire, they ask similar questions. Most of the people we speak to will have subcontractors of their own, won't they? Generally.
Yeah.
So effectively, when our clients and you guys are bringing on subcontractors, you're doing the exact same process as the bigger company is, just on a smaller level. So if you're going out there and looking for subcontractors you've not worked before, you're looking for 3, you get 10 of them come to you. You'll pick the 3 who've got the best references, they've got all the paperwork in place, they've got insurance, all the rest of it, and the other guys won't get the job. It's the same process, just on, like I say, a grander scale. When you're there you're being asked the same questions by a Bolford Beatty, a Mighty, a local council, Bovis Homes, whoever it is. You will then be essentially just an elongated version of what you're already doing with your subcontractors. So if you just have the mindset of what would I want if I was taking somebody on, that's the way you need to look at it, really, I think.
Exactly that.
Yeah, I don't think it's... Yes, it can be complicated, but it's not as complicated as people think it is, I suppose, to do the tenders, especially if we're helping you.
Well, yeah, especially if we take as much of it off your hands as we can do.
Yeah.
I think, if you've got an accreditation, you're thinking, I'm struggling with this in terms of seeing the benefit, or you're looking at, you're debating whether to get it renewed when you've previously done it yourself, or if you've never even gone, maybe you've gone to tender and struggled, or maybe you've just never even gone to tender. I'd say just call us up, can go through, see where you're at with your business, what you want where you're at now, where you want to be in a year or so's time, who you want to work with, and we can put your best foot forward to give you the best possible chance of achieving that for yourself, for your business, and like you said, in the larger picture, yourself and your family, really.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, from our perspective as a company, yes, obviously we'd love you to use our services, and you're paying us X amount for that, but ultimately we're here to give you the advice. So we're not like some of the other competitors who we won't name, but we're there to help and advise. And if you ring us and say, look, I'm trying to tender with this company, they've asked for this, that and the other, what would you do, or what do you think I should do? And we have existing clients of ours and new potential clients come to us. We will give you a sort of an approach where we'll be honest with you and say, look, what I would probably do is you're going to need the health and safety stuff and the training in place. It mentions accreditations. Though you could go for this one that costs you X amount, if I was you, I would probably take this one that's actually a lot cheaper, because right now you don't need to go down that route. You'd be much better doing this, and you can worry about that one further down the line. Yeah. Because we're not in the business of taking money off people for something they don't need, as ultimately that wouldn't do our reputation any good, and it's just...
Build up to it.
Yeah, we're just not like that. But basically,
as I said at the start, it's that first step, SSIP.
It's walking before you can run. So, like you said with the ISOs, they aren't for some people. Not everybody will need them. However, the people who do use them and get them, yes, it can help them. But like I say, walk before you can run. Take those baby steps into the tendering process. Get the work under your belt. Get the money in the pocket. And then you can worry about moving on from there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much. Thank you, Ben, for asking all my questions I fired at you.
No worries.
Like an interrogation
my
at
job,
times.
Hopefully I've still got my job after that. But...
We'll see. I'll have a way when we get back. But yeah, thank you ever so much for that. And thank you to everyone for listening.
Cheers.